Good day, I am Ben Lawrence T. Valles, a member of Group 3, and we are here to present the Chapter 11 of the textbook called Interaction Design, titled Discovering Requirements. Discovering requirements focus on exploring the problem space and defining what will be developed. In the case of interaction design, this includes the target users or the demographics and how the product will be used in their daily endeavors. The limitations of the product will likely be apparent at this stage. What is the purpose of requirements activity? Requirements may be discovered through targeted activities or tangentially during product evaluation, prototyping, design, and construction. In practice, requirements evolve and develop as the stakeholders interact with designs and learn what is possible and how features can be used. So the more the end users or the stakeholders use the product, the more refined and specific the scope and the requirements of the end product will be. The requirements activity sits on the first two phases of the double diamond design, which are discover and define. These two phases involve exploring the problem space to gain insight and to establish a description of what are the areas to focus on. How to capture requirements once they are discovered. Requirements may be captured in several different forms. For some products, such as an exercise monitoring app, it may be appropriate to capture requirements implicitly through a prototype or operational product. For others, such as process control software in a factory, a more detailed understanding of the required behavior is needed before prototyping or construction begins, and a structured or rigorous notation may be used to investigate the product's requirements. In all cases, capturing requirements explicitly is beneficial to make sure that the key requirements aren't lost through the iterations. Interactive products span a wide range of domains with differing constraints and user expectations. Requirements may vary for every type of product. Once identified, requirements should be clearly explained. Requirements can be represented using prototypes, stories, diagrams, and photographs. Why bother avoiding miscommunication? One of the goals of interaction design is to produce usable products that support the way that people communicate and interact in their everyday and working lives. Discovering and communicating requirements help to advance this goal because defining what needs to be built supports technical developers and allows users to contribute more effectively. If the product turns out to be unusable or inappropriate, then everyone will be disappointed. This illustration visualizes miscommunication and the different perspectives or interpretations of different people. User-centered design with repeated iteration and evaluation along with user involvement mitigates this from happening. The involvement of end users in developing a product is essential to pinpoint what the proposed product should do and not to wander outside of the scope of the product.
Hello, my name is Angel De Castro, and we are the Group 3, and I'll discuss Chapter 11, Slides 7 to 12. What are requirements? Requirements is a statement about an intended product that specifies what it is expected to do or how it will perform. It may come in different forms and different levels of abstraction. The seven product dimensions. Number 1, user. User interact with the product. Number 2, interface. The product connects to users, systems, and devices. Number 3, action. The product provides capabilities for users. Number 4, data. The product includes a repository of data and useful information. Number 5, control. The product enforces constraints. Number 6. Environment. The product conforms to physical properties and technology. And lastly, number 7. Quality attribute. The product has certain properties that qualify its operation and development. Different type of requirement. Number 1. Functional. Functional requirements capture what the product will do. For example, a functional requirement for a robot working in a car assembly plant might be that it is able to place and weld together the correct pieces of metal accurately. Understanding the functional requirements for an interactive product is fundamental. Number 2, the data. Data requirements capture the type, volatility, size or amount, persistence, accuracy, and value of the required data. All interactive products must have handle some data. For example, if an application for buying and selling stocks and shares is being developed, then the data must be up to date and accurate, and it is likely to change many times a day. In the personal banking domain, data must be accurate and persist over many months and probably years, and there will be plenty of it. Next is environmental requirements or context of use. Refer to the circumstances in which the interactive product will operate. Number 1, physical environment, such as how much lighting, noise, movement, and dust is expected in the operational environment. Will users need to wear protective clothing, such as gloves or headgear, that might affect the choice of interact type? How crowded is the environment? Number 2, social environment. Collaboration and coordination, data sharing, distributed, synchronous or asynchronous, pri- privacy. And number 3, organizational environment. User support, communication, structure, and infrastructure, availability of training. And the last number, technical environment. On what technologies will it run or need to be compatible?
Hello, I'm Jude Cesar C. Chavez from Group 3, and we're gonna report about Chapter 11 in HCI. My first report is the user characteristics. What is user characteristics? It captures the key attributes of the intended user group, such as the user's abilities and skills, depending on the product, also their educational background, preference, personal circumstances, physical or mental disabilities, and so on. Different users vary on their use of a system or a product. For example, a novice user may prefer step-by-step guidance, and an expert user, on the other hand, may prefer a flexible interaction with more wide-range powers of control. Next is the usability goals and user experience. Usability goals and user experience goals are another kind of requirement. They should be captured together with appropriate measures, usability engineering, an approach in which specific measures for the usability goals of the product are agreed upon early in the development process and are used to track progress as development proceeds. This both ensures the usability is given due priority and facilitates progress tracking. The same is true for user experience goals, although it is harder to identify quantifiable measures that track these qualities. An understanding of their importance is needed during the requirement activity. Different products have different requirements and may be implemented in different ways. For example is trustworthiness. Next is the usable security. What is usable security? Security is one requirement that most users and designers will agree is important to some degree or another. For most products, the wide range of security breaches of individuals' private data that have occurred in recent years has heightened everyone's awareness of the need to be secure. Next is data gathering for requirement activities. Data gathering for requirements covers a wide spectrum of issues, including who are the intended users, the activities in which they are currently engaged, and their associated goals. The context in which the activities are performed are the rationale for the current situation. The goals for the data gathering sessions will be to discover all the types of requirements relevant for the product. For data gathering techniques like interviews, observations, questionnaires, and etc., it is a good source of data about the steps involved in an activity and any regulations governing a task. It is also good for understanding legislation and getting background information. Next is using probe to engage with users. Probes come in many forms and are an imaginative approach to data gathering. They are designed to prompt participants into action, specifically by interacting with the probe in some way, so that the researchers can learn more about the user and their context. There are different types of probes. The first one is design probe, an object whose form relates specifically to a particular question and context. They are intended to gently encourage users to engage with and answer the question in their own context. The second probe is cultural probe. Consists of a wallet containing 8 to 10 postcards, about 7 maps, a disposable camera, a photo album, and a media diary. Recipients were asked to answer questions associated with certain items in the wallet, and then return them directly to the researchers. The two other probes that will be talked about will be handled by Yu Baliwag. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Nathaniel Liu El Baliwag from Group 3, and today I'm going to discuss types of probes, contextual inquiry, principles of contextual interview, brainstorming for innovation. Let's start with types of probes. Technology probe uses technology to gather data. Examples of technology probes include toolkits, mobile apps, sensors, and etc. Provocative probe are technology probe to design to cha- are designed to challenge existing norms and attitude in order to provoke discussion. Contextual inquiry. Contextual inquiry is the core field research process for contextual design, which is a user-centered design approach that explicitly defines how to gather, interpret, and model data about how people live in order to drive design ideation. It can also be used on its own to gather requirements and one-on-one field interviews. That's contextual interview. 1.5 1.5 to 2 hours long. It should take 1.5 to 2 hours long. And it should focus on daily life at work or home at kung ano man yung relevant doon sa project. And it should also use a model of master, participant, or apprentice, the researcher. Principle of contextual interviews. Number one, context. Context emphasizes the importance of going to the user wherever they are and seeing what they do as they do it. The benefits of this are exposure to ongoing experience instead of summary data, concrete details rather than abstract data, and experience motives rather than reports. So, ang context, ito yung nagde-define dun sa ano, kung ano ba talaga nangyayari dun sa ini-interview natin. Hindi, kailangan i-observe natin siya para makuha natin yung context kung ano ba nangyayari. Partnership. Partnership creates a collaborative context in which the user and interviewer can explore the user's life together on an equal footing. In a traditional interview or a workshop situation, the interviewer or workshop leader is in control, but in contextual inquiry, the spirit of partnership means that understanding is developed together. So, sa partnership, yung interviewer, parang i-experience niya yung life nung kung ano man yung ginagawa nung ini-interview niya. So magko-collab sila para makuha yung context or maintindihan ng interviewer kung ano ba talaga yung para makuha ng para maintindihan ng interviewer kung ano ba talaga yung ginagawa nung ini-interview niya. Interpretation. Interpretation turns the observation into a form that can be the basis of a design, hypothesis, or idea. These interpretations are developed collaboratively by the user and the design team to make sure that they are sound. Number 4, focus. Focus is established to guide the interview setup and tell the interviewer what they need to pay attention to among all the detail that will be alerted. Excuse. This leads to a richer collection of data. Contextual interview. Cool concepts are an addition to the original contextual inquiry idea, and they are derived from a field study that investigated what is about technologies that users find cool. Joy of life concepts capture how products make our lives richer and more fulfilling. These concepts are accomplished empower users, connection, enhance real relationship, identity, supports user sense of self, and sensation, pleasure of moments. Joy of use concepts describe the impact of using the product itself. They are direct in action, provide fulfillment of intent, the hassle factor, remove all glitches and inconvenience, and learning delta. Reduce the time to learn. During a contextual interview, full concepts are identified as the user does their activity, although often they only emerge retrospectively when reflecting on the session. The four parts of the contextual interview: overview, transition, main interview, and the wrap-up. So, dito sa contextual interview, yung cool, ito yung parang nagde-define ko ano ba yung masasabi mong cool dun sa ano nang ini-interview mo. For example, sa technology, sa bagong cellphone, ano yung cool doon? What is the what do you call this? Mm, basta yung kung ano yung kung saan sila mahuhook, ano yung method na gagamitin mo para ma-define yung cool. Tapos, joy of life concepts, dito naman makukuha yung kung paano naapektuhan nung product yung user, paano naapektuhan ng product yung user para ma-fulfill yung everyday na kunyari kailangan nila, mas madadalian ba sila, mas magiging mabilis ba yung process kung ano naman ginagawa gamit yung product. Yun. At yung four parts of contextual interview: overview, transition, main interview, and the wrap up. Yan lang yung flow nung pag-interview. Lastly, brainstorming for innovation. Requirements may emerge directly from the data gathered, but they may also involve innovation. Brainstorming is a generic technique used to generate, refine, and develop ideas. It is widely used in interaction design, specifically for generating alternative designs on or for suggesting new and better ideas to support users. 1. Include participants from a wide range of disciplines with a broad range of experience. 2. Don't ban silly stuff. 3. Use Catalyst for further inspiration. 4. Keep record sharp. 5. Sharpen the focus. 6. Use warm-up exercise and make the session fun. So, yung brainstorming, yan yung, as you can see, yan yung mag nag magagather ng maraming tao na iba't ibang perspective sa ano man pinag-uusapan nyo at magbabatuan kayo ng ideas at kung ano yung kung ano yung maiisip ng grupo na pinaka tama or pinaka okay, ayun yung magiging main project. Pero hindi ka mag-aano dito, hindi mo sasabihin, for example, nagsabi yung isa ng ganitong idea, hindi mo sasabihin na mali yan, huwag natin gawin yan. Hindi tayo magne-negate dito. Kukuha tayo ng idea about kukuha tayo ng idea based sa lahat ng sinabi at pagsasamahin-samahin natin siya to create a better product. Thank you!
Bringing requirements to life. The essence of a requirement is captured by a user story, but neither one by itself is adequate to convey the goal and visions of the product. Prototypes, functional systems, screenshots, conversations, acceptance criteria, diagrams, documentations, and other elements can be added to both. The type of system being developed will determine which of these augmentation is needed and how much. In some circumstances, it is appropriate to represent various aspects of the intended product in more formal and structured representations. The functionality, user interface, and interaction of the system, for instance, must be clearly and precisely specified when creating safety-critical devices. Two techniques that are commonly used to enhance the basic requirements informations and to bring requirements to life are personas and scenarios. Often used together, they complement each other in order to bring realistic details that allows the developer to explore the user's current activities, future use of new products, and futuristic visions of the new technologies. They can also guide development throughout the product life cycle. Personas. Personas describe in detail the typical users of the product that is being produced to help the designers focus on and make products for these users. They are realistic and not idealized. Rather than describing particular people, any given persona is constructed from a number of user profiles and is a combination of many different real users that took part in data collection. Rather than a job description or a simple demographic, each persona is described by a unique set of goals connected to the particular product being produced. This is because persona who share the same profession or demographic frequently have distinct objectives. A good persona helps the designer understand whether a particular design decision will help or hinder their users. To end this, a persona has two goals. One is to help the designer to make design decisions, and two is to remind the team that the real people will be using the product. Scenario. A scenario is an informal narrative description. It describes human activities or tasks in a story that allows exploration and discussion of a context, needs, and requirements. It does not necessarily describe the use of a software or other technological support used to achieve a goal. Using the vocabulary and phrasing of user means that scenarios can be understood by stakeholders and they are able to participate fully in development. Design fiction. Design fiction is a way to communicate a vision about the world in which a future technology is situated. It has become popular in interaction design as a way to explore and vision technologies and their uses without having to grapple with pragmatic challenges. In a fictional world, ethics, emotions, and context can be explored in details and in depth without worrying about concrete constraints or implementations. The term was coined by Bruce Sterling in 2005 and its use gradually increase as different ways of using it have merged. Use cases. Use cases capture interaction and concentrate on functional requirements. Since they pay attention, they may be used in design to reflect on the relationship between the user and the product. They can also be utilized to record requirements to create the new interaction that is being designed. Consider the specifics of what the user needs to see, understand, or respond to. Use cases provide a step-by-step description of a particular process. In contrast, this this to a user story which emphasizes user objectives and outcomes. Nevertheless, obtaining the specific steps of this interaction is helpful for enhancing the fundamental requirements statement. The user cases for marketing varies. This section showcases two different looks.